There are 5 specific ways God shows up when a Christian woman has absolutely nothing left to give. Not theories, not religious clichés. 5 actual patterns that happen when exhaustion meets faith. And if you have been wondering why your prayers feel like they are hitting a wall, why serving God feels like running on empty, why nobody seems to notice you are barely holding it together, what you are about to hear might change how you see everything you are walking through right now. Most women hit a point where the tiredness is not just physical. It goes deeper than needing sleep or a vacation. It settles into the soul, creating this constant background noise of exhaustion that nobody else can hear. You wake up already tired. You go through the motions. You smile when expected. You serve when needed. You show up for everyone. And somewhere along the way, you stopped showing up for yourself. Not because you wanted to, but because there was no space left. The family needed you. The church needed you. The marriage needed you. The children needed you. And you kept giving until there was nothing left to give. Yet somehow, you are still here, still standing, still functioning. And that is not an accident. There is a particular kind of suffering that comes with being needed by everyone while feeling seen by no one. It is the exhaustion of always being the strong one, always being the one who figures things out, always being the one who keeps it together when everything is falling apart. And the worst part is not the tiredness itself. The worst part is the guilt that comes with it. Because good Christian women are not supposed to be tired. They are supposed to have joy. They are supposed to be filled with the Spirit. They are supposed to trust God enough that stress just bounces off. At least that is what it feels like everyone expects. So you carry the exhaustion and you carry the shame of being exhausted, and the weight of both becomes almost unbearable. But what if the exhaustion itself is not the problem? What if it is actually the doorway to experiencing God in ways that abundance and energy never allow? The first way God steps in is by dismantling your need for control. This sounds harsh until you realize what control actually costs. Control means believing that if you just work harder, pray longer, manage better, everything will fall into place. Control means carrying weight that was never meant for human shoulders. It means staying awake at night running through scenarios, trying to predict outcomes, attempting to manage other people's choices and reactions. It means believing that your vigilance is what keeps everything from falling apart. And that belief, no matter how well-intentioned, is exhausting because it places you in a position that belongs to God alone. Think about what happens when you try to hold water in your bare hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. The harder you grip, the less you actually hold. That is what control does. It creates the illusion of security while actually generating more anxiety, more pressure, more responsibility than any human was designed to carry. God often waits until the illusion of control collapses, because only then does real surrender become possible. And the collapse feels terrifying. It feels like failure. It feels like everything you worked to prevent is now happening anyway. But from God's perspective, it is not collapse. It is clearing. He is making room. When your hands finally fail from holding too much, when your strength runs out from trying too hard, when you reach that breaking point where you cannot pretend anymore, that is not failure. That is the beginning of something deeper. Proverbs 3 verses 5 and 6 says to trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding, to acknowledge Him in all your ways, and He will make your paths straight. Acknowledging God is not just mentioning His name. It is releasing the grip. It is admitting that your best efforts are not enough and were never supposed to be. It is the moment you stop trying to be the solution and start trusting that God already is. When control crumbles, God does not step back in disappointment. He steps forward in relief, finally able to carry what you were never meant to hold alone. And this is where many women misunderstand what is happening. They think God is punishing them by allowing things to fall apart. But He is not punishing. He is rescuing. He is removing the burden you were dragging that was slowly destroying you. Sometimes the most loving thing God can do is let you hit the wall so you finally stop running toward it. The second way God intervenes is by sustaining you before He changes your circumstances. This is where many women feel abandoned because they are praying for change and instead receiving just enough strength to get through today. Just enough peace for this moment. Just enough grace for this hour. It feels insufficient until you understand what God is actually doing. He is teaching daily dependence. When the Israelites wandered in the desert, God sent manna every single morning, not a month's supply, not even a week's worth. Just enough for that day. And when some of them tried to gather extra to save for tomorrow, it rotted, because He wanted them to learn that His provision comes fresh every morning, that they did not need to hoard or panic or figure out next month. They just needed to trust that He would show up again tomorrow. That must have been terrifying at first. Going to bed with no food stored, no guarantee except God's word that more would come. But over time, it became the very thing that built unshakable trust. Philippians 4 verse 19 promises that God will meet all your needs according to the riches of His glory in Christ Jesus. Not all at once, not according to your timeline, but in the right measure at the right time. So when you feel like you are only getting enough strength for today, when you wake up and wonder how you will possibly make it through but then somehow you do, that is not God being stingy. That is God building your trust one day at a time, proving that He will be there tomorrow and the day after, and every day that follows. This daily sustaining often looks like small things. The unexpected phone call from a friend exactly when you needed to hear a kind voice. The child who actually sleeps through the night on the day you thought you would break from exhaustion. The sermon that speaks directly to your situation. The sudden moment of peace that washes over you in the middle of chaos for no logical reason. These are not coincidences. These are God showing up in the margins, sustaining you in ways that do not fix everything but give you what you need to keep going. Maybe you are watching this and recognizing yourself in every sentence. Maybe you are realizing that what you thought was isolated struggle is actually a pattern God uses to draw women closer. If this is landing somewhere deep in your heart, stay with this. There is more you need to hear about how God works when everything feels impossible. The third way God shows up is by completely redefining what strength actually means. Somewhere along the way, Christian women were taught that strength means never breaking, never asking for help, never admitting exhaustion. Strength became synonymous with silent endurance, with being the one everyone can count on no matter what, with sacrificing yourself so completely that your own needs become invisible even to you. And this version of strength is praised. People admire the woman who never complains, who always serves, who keeps smiling through everything. But that is not biblical strength. That is performance masking as faithfulness. Jesus wept, not privately, but publicly. He cried at the tomb of his friend Lazarus, even though he knew he was about to raise him from the dead. He wept over Jerusalem. He showed grief, showed sorrow, showed the full weight of human emotion. Jesus asked his disciples to stay awake with him in the garden because he needed support. He told them his soul was overwhelmed to the point of death. He did not hide his struggle. He did not pretend to have it all together. He admitted that his flesh was weak and asked the Father if there was any other way. If the Son of God could be honest about struggle, Where did women learn they had to hide theirs? Your body was designed with limits. Sleep is not optional. Rest is not weakness. Pausing is not failure. Your body will force you to stop eventually, either through rest or through collapse. And choosing rest before collapse is not lack of faith. It is wisdom. It is stewarding the body God gave you instead of treating it like a machine that should run non-stop. Ignoring physical and emotional boundaries is not spirituality. It is self-destruction dressed up as service. And God does not ask for self-destruction. He asks for obedience, and part of obedience is honoring the limits He built into human design. Isaiah 40 verse 31 says that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength, will soar on wings like eagles, will run and not grow weary, will walk and not be faint. Notice it says those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength, not those who push harder, not those who ignore their limits. Those who wait on God, who stop trying to manufacture energy from empty reserves, who rest so He can restore. The renewal comes from hoping in the Lord, not from grinding through exhaustion, and hoping does not mean sitting passively. It means actively choosing to trust that God's strength is available when yours runs out. True strength is not standing when you should fall. True strength is knowing you can fall because God catches you every single time. It is being honest about struggle instead of hiding it. It is asking for help instead of pretending you have it all together. It is saying no when you need to, instead of yes just to keep the peace. It is taking the day off when your body is screaming for rest instead of powering through because there is always more to do. Real strength looks like vulnerability, like honesty, like setting boundaries, like admitting when something is too much. And that kind of strength actually draws people closer because it gives them permission to be human too. The fourth way God intervenes is by working during the waiting. This is the hardest one to trust because waiting feels like nothing is happening. You pray and hear silence. You believe and see no change. You hold on and watch circumstances stay exactly the same or sometimes get worse. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and the prayers you have been praying feel like they are disappearing into a void. The silence makes you question everything. Maybe God is not listening. Maybe your faith is too weak. But what looks like inactivity on the surface is actually intense activity beneath it. Think about a seed planted in soil. For weeks, nothing visible happens. The seed sits in darkness, buried, hidden, looking completely dead. If you dug it up to check on it, you might think nothing was working. But underground, roots are forming. Structure is developing. The seed is breaking open, dying to what it was so it can become what it is meant to be. Life is preparing to break through. And when the plant finally emerges, nobody sees all the work that happened in the dark. They only see the result. Romans 8 verse 28 affirms that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Not that all things are good, but that God works all things toward good. He takes what should never have happened and redeems it. He uses pain to build character that could not be built any other way. He leverages waiting to deepen trust that instant answers would never create. So when answers delay, when breakthroughs take longer than expected, when you feel stuck in the same struggle month after month, consider that God might be protecting your heart from receiving something before you are ready. Consider that He might be building something in you that is more important than the thing you are asking for. The waiting itself is the answer, forming faith that will carry you through the rest of your life. Sometimes God delays because the present version of what you are asking for is not the best version He has planned. You are asking for relief, and He is planning restoration. You are asking for change, and He is preparing transformation. The fifth way God steps in is by restoring your identity before He fixes your situation. Many women watching this feel invisible. You do everything at home and nobody notices. You serve at church and nobody acknowledges it. You hold the emotional weight of your entire family and nobody asks how you are carrying it. You have become background noise in your own life. The reliable one, the one who always handles things. And the invisibility hurts more than the tiredness because it makes you question whether you even matter. This is a specific kind of pain that many women carry in complete silence. Because admitting you feel invisible sounds ungrateful. It sounds selfish. So you keep serving, keep showing up, keep doing what needs to be done, all while feeling increasingly erased. And over time, you start to believe that maybe your value really is just in what you provide. Maybe you matter because of what you do, not because of who you are. But God sees what everyone else misses. He sees the sacrifice nobody applauds. He sees the tears you cry alone. He sees the prayers you whisper at 3 a.m. when insomnia and worry keep you awake. He sees the smile you put on when you feel like falling apart. He sees every moment you chose to keep going when quitting would have been easier. Nothing you do in secret is hidden from Him. Nothing you carry alone is unnoticed. And more than that, He sees you. Not what you do for others. Not how well you perform. He sees you, the woman beneath all the roles and responsibilities and expectations. In Genesis 16, Hagar was running away, pregnant, abandoned, completely alone in the desert. She was a servant who had been used and discarded, someone with no power, no status, no voice. Nobody was looking for her. She was utterly invisible in the eyes of everyone who mattered. And God found her there. Not after she got her life together. Right there in the mess, in the pain, in the running away. He met her in the wilderness and He spoke to her. And she called Him the God who sees me. Because up until that moment, nobody had truly seen her. Nobody had stopped to acknowledge her pain, her fear, her humanity. But God saw, and He did not just see from a distance. He came close. He spoke her name. He gave her hope. So if you feel invisible, know that God has not lost track of you. He knows your name. He knows your story. He knows the weight you carry that nobody else acknowledges. He knows the dreams you gave up. He knows the parts of yourself you sacrificed. And He is not waiting for you to be more, do more, or fix more before He pays attention. He sees you right now, exactly as you are, in all your exhaustion and struggle and doubt. Your value was never tied to how much you produce, how much you serve, how much you endure. Your value is in whose you are, daughter, chosen, seen, known. And sometimes God lets everything else fall away, so you remember that His attention is enough. That being seen by Him matters more than being noticed by everyone else. That your identity is not found in what you do, but in who He says you are. And sometimes God lets everything else fall away, so you remember that His attention is enough. So where does this leave you? Right here, right now, reading these words while your life still feels overwhelming and your strength still feels insufficient. Nothing has magically changed in your circumstances just because you understand these 5 ways God works. The tiredness is still real. The responsibilities are still there. The struggles have not vanished. But maybe something has shifted in how you see what you are walking through. Maybe there is a small opening now for the possibility that your limit is not your failure. That reaching the end of yourself is not the end of the story, but the place where a different kind of story begins. The answer is not to try harder, not to fake it better, not to add more to your plate or find one more strategy to hold it all together. The answer is to stop carrying what God never asked you to carry. It is to let your limits be limits instead of treating them like failures. It is to understand that reaching the end of yourself is the place where God does His best work. Because when there is nothing left of you, there is finally room for all of Him. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9, records God telling Paul that His grace is sufficient, that His power is made perfect in weakness. Paul had been asking God to remove his struggle, to take away whatever was making life difficult, and God said no. Not because He wanted Paul to suffer, but because He wanted Paul to experience something better than relief. He wanted him to experience the power of God holding him up when he had no strength left. Weakness does not disqualify you from God's presence. It qualifies you. It creates the exact conditions where His strength can fully show up. The woman at her limit is not far from God. She is standing exactly where He loves to meet people, in the space of surrender, in the place of dependence, in the moment where there is nothing left but Him. And it turns out, He is more than enough. Not in the way that makes all problems disappear, but in the way that makes it possible to keep breathing when life is suffocating. In the way that puts one foot in front of the other when walking feels impossible. These 5 ways are not formulas. They are not steps to follow to make God show up faster. They are patterns of how He already works, how He has always worked, how He is probably working in your life right now, even if you cannot see it yet. He dismantles control so you can experience freedom. He sustains daily so you learn trust. He redefines strength so you stop destroying yourself. He works in waiting so you become who you need to be. He restores identity so you know your worth. And all of it is motivated by love. So maybe the next step is not figuring out how to get stronger. Maybe it is admitting you are weak. Maybe it is asking for help. Maybe it is saying no to one more thing. Maybe it is taking rest instead of pushing through. Maybe it is crying instead of holding it together. Maybe it is telling someone you are not okay. Maybe it is just getting through today and trusting that tomorrow will have what it needs when it comes. Whatever it is, it probably looks smaller and simpler than you think. Because God does not usually ask for grand gestures. He asks for surrender. And surrender often looks like the smallest, most ordinary choice to stop trying to be God and start trusting that He already is.